How you doing, Lumi?
I'm doing great. Just been working on some braids, making e-liquid, just enjoying it in the weekend. How have you been?
I've been good. I've been good. Just got off that show with Pippa and Fresh and ML Nikon. We talked about lemonades tonight. And I like lemonade, so that was good. So, outside of vaping, what do you like to do?
Um, Outside of vaping, I've always had a hobby of making jewelry and knitting and crocheting and just the obvious outdoor stuff with my little puppy.
So you knit, you crochet, and you do braids, and you mix, so your fingers stay busy.
Yeah, I
uh,
even made this necklace too. I've always done jewelry and
right.
braiding.
I, I dabbled in that for a little while. For a little while, it gave me something to do. It just kept me busy.
Yeah, keeping myself busy is one of my favorite things. I can't, if I'm idle, it just doesn't work. The longer I'm idle, the more crazy the next thing I do is going to be.
Uh, so how long did you smoke?
Um, I've always been one of those on and off smokers, but I started when I was about, I think, 15 years old. I would go to school, ask a friend to buy me a pack of cigarettes, give him extra money, buy me a pack of cigarettes, and then that's how I got
What
into it.
what made you try vaping or swap to vaping?
Um, I actually had quit smoking cigarettes after I got my thyroid removed because I thought there might be dangers towards the healing process.
Right.
But then I'd gotten some more terrible news that was just so frustrating. I was like, screw it. Clearly, it doesn't matter if I keep myself healthy. I'm buying a pack of cigarettes. And then I got on one of my Twitch streams and was like, all right, guys, I need a 5-minute break outside so I could smoke a cigarette. And one of my very beloved viewers was like, you smoke cigarettes? And I was like, not all the time, but yes. He's like, you need to swap to vaping. With all of the stuff you have going on, you need to just swap to vaping. It's going to be a much healthier alternative. And it started the conversation of all of the horrible things that I've heard about vaping. He clarified it, sent me links so I can educate myself, and then actually bought me my first mod for my birthday. And he's like, for your birthday, you're going to quit smoking cigarettes and you're going to stay quitting smoking cigarettes because you're going to have a vape.
Have you noticed any improvement with vaping? I mean, other than you don't have to go outside. I, I know you have some medical issues that you've talked about publicly before. Uh, has vaping helped with any of that, or
Um, Honestly, I think it's got to because I've noticed certain things with like my nails being stronger. It's really hard to tell if something's negatively affecting me with the autoimmune problems that I have. My body just goes like this, so I can't really tell what to contribute to what anymore. It's
right?
just something happened somewhere.
Right. So, how long ago did you start to mix?
Um, just a couple of months, I think, actually.
Okay.
I'd I'd started hanging out in the shack and I met all of these wonderful people that were mixing and talking about it. And at the time, I was struggling to buy myself e-liquid. So they were like, start mixing. It's going to be a more affordable option. And then one night, Fresh comes into a Zoom room, and I'm like, Fresh, can you help me build my very first cart so I can make myself a blueberry cream? And Fresh was kind enough to be like, just mixing in the background. I was like, he didn't. So I just kept looking. I kept building my cart, and Fresh comes up with a little bag. He's like, I'm going to get you started. And he mailed it out to me. And he's like, also, I've been looking for somebody else to do Fresh from the Kitchen. How would you feel about that? At first, I was a little worried, but I was like, this is a great learning opportunity for me. So I dove into it.
Absolutely. Couldn't have picked a better teacher. He's very patient, and he's really good at explaining stuff.
Definitely.
Uh, and seems like that you're pretty good at understanding, because it seems like that you've caught on pretty well.
Just naturally, I like to tinker with stuff.
Right.
So the second I could build coils, I was like, something else to tinker with. Build my own e-liquid. Oh, for me, it was a better alternative than sitting there looking every single day to be like, what's a new vape item that I want to buy? Because I went to that hobby side of it. And then I was like, this is a really bad, expensive hobby.
Oh, it
Inventing
is.
and building coils seems a little bit easier, and well, you can maintain that.
So, how did it feel? And do you remember the first mix that you made that you actually liked, like that was actually good?
Um, I was really fortunate in that a lot of the mixes I started out with were all co-opted, I guess, with either Fresh, Adam Pilarczyk, or Alfred Pudding. So I had three wonderful, incredible, knowledgeable mixers in my corner just there to help me out. There was one time, though, I made my very first order. I got everything, and I was like, I want to chase down this flavor. And I was like, I don't need a scale. I can guess percentages. So I just started squeezing e-liquid into a random bottle with premix in it. It smelled like dog hair. Wet dog hair. That was my worst mix.
Yeah, I bet. I've had a couple of those. So at this point, do you still do single flavor tests?
No. I kind of just get a feel for certain flavors and adding them into something I know I like, and I'll swap out flavors here and there. And it'll just help me know what it does in that mix and what it can add to other mixes.
That makes sense, because you've been taught by Fresh, and that's how he does it. He just replaces flavors and what he knows will work. So, uh, how many flavors do you have? Rough guess.
219, I think.
Didn't take you long, did it? It's such a big, slippery rabbit hole.
It is. And still, I'm just like, I want this one. I need to order this one.
Right. Do you think for somebody to be a good mixer, though, that they need like 1,000 flavors?
No, definitely not. I've actually had somebody come over to my Twitch channel recently, and they're like, I seen you on Fresh from the Kitchen. Would you mind looking at my flavor stash and making me something with blueberry? This person only had maybe 20 flavors. And I was like, which route do you want to go? And so I built him a really nice blueberry cream with a hint of pastry to the side of it. And he's like, I love this. I was like, if you need something else, I'll see what I can work with. Just let me know. And I'm here to help. So just start off with what you think you want. And there's people in the community who will help you put stuff together, or just like with, if you're a baker or you cook foods, they'll be like, oh, this would taste really good with if you add a small amount of this. I think that habit comes naturally when you're looking at flavors. You're like, oh, I want to do something with this flavor. What all would be good with this? Cream, bakery, pudding, tobacco. So you build from what you think you want.
Right. So we just talked about that you don't need a lot of flavors to mix, but then so now I'm going to ask you, how do you feel when you know that you got vape mail coming and it gets there and you get to open it?
There's the first couple of times I genuinely cried. It was terrible because it was people in the community helping me get started. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just so overwhelming. And then when I do make the order myself, I'm that terrible person that will be actually getting the package from the mailbox and we'll be going out to dinner. I sat in the little booth of where we were eating dinner and opened up my new box of flavors that I bought and put them all on the table, took a picture, and then I ate my food. I couldn't let it sit. I had to look at them all.
Uh, do you have a favorite concentrate now? Like one that you stick it in anything that you can?
Um, VSO blueberry.
I still don't have those yet. I need to get them.
Definitely. For me, it triggered a really great memory with my grandfather, who is also the person who taught me how to make all my jewelry and how to tinker with things. So during in between breaks of him teaching me stuff, we'd go out for hikes and there was blueberry bushes, and me and him would grab handfuls of blueberries, come back to the house, rinse them off, eat them. The second I had VSO's blueberry in an additive of the donut, because he has a blueberry donut,
Hmm.
it brought back that blueberry memory, and I was like, this is sentimental and precious now.
Fair enough. We've heard a bunch of people talk about their blueberry. You have their strawberry also?
Yes, I have not tried that one yet.
Have not tried it. You tried the grape?
Yes.
Do you like the grape?
I see it being a really good juice flavor, or if you want to take it a candy flavor, I think that would be a really good route to go with their grape. The best way I can say is it's a sweetened grape. So if you wanted to tone it down, you'd probably have to add like a couple of florals maybe.
Right.
But I can see it being versatile. Like I can imagine the things that I would do to it.
Is it harsh at all like some of the other grapes? They can get really harsh.
It didn't feel too harsh. When I made one of my mixes, just testing it out, I'd accidentally made a grape pixie stick, which again brought back my memories from childhood. And I was like, I remember these. So
Absolutely. Where do you get recipe inspirations from? Like, how do you come up with ideas of what you want to try to make?
I have a really bad sweet tooth. And I also have a really good ability at cooking anything that's going to give me diabetes. So whenever I'm just like, oh, I want to go make this, instead of walking to my kitchen, I walk over to my shelf, which has way more options now. And I'm like, what do I want for dessert? And I'll just start grabbing stuff off of my shelves, like, I'm going to make something good.
So, if we could put you in a room with, say, three people, uh, they could be mixers, people that you look up to, heroes, living or dead. Who would those three people be?
Addie Tooney, Fresh 03, Adam Pilarczyk.
It's a good selection.
A troublesome selection. I can only imagine how much trouble we'd all get into.
Right. Uh, what's the favorite recipe of yours that you've made so far?
One that I've been making quite a bit. I think I've made this one the most. I made myself a mild cinnamon roll because I don't really like a lot of cinnamon. Like it's an overpowering flavor to me, and I'm a spice sensitive palate, I guess.
Right.
So I have one. Um, and so I actually went with four wonder flavors: buttercream frosting, croissant, cinnamon pastry, um, and glazed donut. And I made myself a mild cinnamon roll.
Do you mix other people's recipes as well? I mean, other than Fresh's, I know you mix his.
Not as often. I would like to, but I've noticed it's a rabbit hole when I go to look at flavors and I see this inspiring recipe and I'm like, I'm gonna have to swap things out because I don't have them, or I'm like, I need to buy all of these flavors quick to the store.
Right. And that doesn't change, just in case you're curious. I talked to Tam Vapes and Pippa. They've both got like 1500 plus concentrates, and they still have recipes that they got to buy flavors for it to mix.
Yep.
So I guess that's never going to change. With your knowledge of flavors so far, is there a flavor that we don't have that you wish we did?
I want VSO, Vaping Swag, to make us a pumpkin. Just a nice pure pumpkin base that you would put into a pie. I know that there's pumpkin pies and all of that stuff, but I would really just like a nice, sweet, natural pumpkin base. And I feel like if anybody is going to nail that, it's Vaping Swag. He has that ability to get that natural flavor out of a lot of stuff.
Right. You said that you uh, are sensitive to like spice type flavors. Other than those, like, do you avoid dap or uh, like any of the things that they say might be horrible for us?
The second that somebody's like, it might be horrible for us, I'm like, that's a key ingredient to make something amazing.
Right.
So I run at it because I'm like, I need that. I just get in my mix. Because honestly, everything can be good or bad. So
Okay, and we touched on that. You make braids. What what got you into that?
Um, there was a wonderful group, the Resistance Crew. It's a great group of builders that came together and they started in a GoFundMe for Braids for Blue. Blue is an infant who has just been through so much. And while he's going through chemo, the Resistance Crew has managed to, and other operations and stuff, they raise money so they can send Blue items to help him get through his struggle or support the family. So one day I saw that stream, and at that point, people have gotten to know Lumi is obnoxious and Lumi's going to find you. They invited me onto the stream and they were like, let's teach you how to make your first braid. I was like, I have stainless steel and I have 24 and 26 gauge. They're like, your fingers are going to kill you after this, but make a 36 gauge fishtail loop braid. So I made that and it auctioned off to Ann Thomas, another great member in our community. And I started braiding ever since then because I was like, what else can I do this for? People are going to want to do this for giveaways, and it's a great product, so, or item. So let's go ahead.
Right, and we talked before about the making the braids kind of tears up your fingers a little bit. Have you found a good solution for that yet?
I've tried a couple of different options. One of them was the type of glass, or not glasses, gloves that choir members use or acting class. I tried them, but then I discovered that the seams on them get in the way of trying to loop your fingertips through stuff. So that was a no-go. I have tried putting band-aids around, like flexible ones, around the seams of my fingers while I'm waiting for them to toughen up. And that worked really well. It just became kind of expensive just throwing away band-aids.
Right.
So my new option was I found these gloves and they're just like the little typical ones that you get at Walmart or dollar store or something. And they have no seams on them. I cut the part off from my thumb so I can still have air to my fingers, but it leaves, you can tell that, and well, I wash them every time I use them, so they're a little rough up, but there's little indents from where I keep the braids on these because I just use them so much now.
Right. Uh, and I understand that you have started selling your braids as well.
Yes.
Where could people contact you if they were interested in buying some?
Um, Instagram Messenger, direct messenger, or Facebook Messenger.
Now, I've heard you talk about this before. In your opinion, who should advocate for vaping and why?
Honestly, I think everybody should, unless you mean more important than that. But you never know who you might be able to straighten out their opinion, I guess. If you do it properly, you can change somebody's mind on vaping. And they might go to somebody else, and just a domino effect. You can change a bunch of opinions just by simply approaching somebody gracefully and informing them how vaping has helped you and how many people it can save that die to combustible cigarettes.
Right, and I think a lot of it is how you approach it. I mean, if you approach it argumentatively or angrily, that's just going to turn people off right away. They're not even going to listen to what you got to say. And you've got to be able to know too that some people you're just not going to change their mind. I mean, once they hear what they hear, they're not going to budge on it.
Another thing that I notice is don't talk out of your ass. I will not say matter of factly on anything that I cannot verify, and I will keep going with what I do know, and I will be very upfront about this. I will be like, I don't know the specific details of this study, but I can link you to other people who are informative. And that's when I give out Addie Tooney or Fresh's YouTube. And I'm like, or there's these great sites that advocate for vaping. If you want to take the time to look into these matter of fact numbers, feel free to. I'm not going to mess up numbers because I'm trying to prove a point and then become a liar. At that point, once you become a liar, everything you just told them disregarded.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so this always an interesting question for newer mixers like yourself. What advice would you give to a brand new mixer like they're just getting into it?
Um, don't buy large bottles. I make this mistake. Even though you tell people not to make this mistake, they still do it. But I still am guilty of doing it. I went ahead and did it with a couple of flavors. I'm apparently one of those people that tastes pepper off of TPA's custards and creams. Guess who has 4 ounces of TPA's custards and creams and ice creams?
Wow.
And I still do it. Like I did it with Flavora's yam. Everybody's like, it's an interesting flavor. It's an additive. You don't need much of it. I bought 35 milliliters of Flavora's yam, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And then the next side of that card would be, I bought 2 ounces of Capella's sugar cookie. Apparently, it does not have a very long shelf life before it starts to fade out and become nothing. So you only want to buy that in 10 mLs at a time. So there's good benefits to just starting off small and seeing what you like.
All right. Well, and the other aspect of that too is if you start off small, you can either get more flavors than what you could have got if you bought big bottles. Sometimes that can get overwhelming too, having so many to try. But you don't have a lot of money sitting there. I mean, what if you don't like mixing?
Yep, that too.
How did you get your name Lumi? Your Lumi name?
Um, I'd started off video gaming on World of Warcraft, and I started with the name Little because I'm quite tiny. Until people found out I was 5'9". And they're like, "You're not little at all." And I was like, "I still look very tiny." So eventually I was like, okay, fine. It was a bad start. And then I had been walking around one day, and it was the new season for spring, and I was wearing shorts. Somebody had actually driven up behind me, and my legs just blinded them because of how pasty I was. And they're like, "I had to put my sunglasses on driving up behind you." And I was like, oh. So Lumi is finished for snow, and my skin sometimes can be so pasty that it is just blinding like the snow. So Lumi it is.
Gotcha. And how do we greet Mr. Burgundy?
A whale's vagini.
Uh, so did you watch YouTube videos like to learn how to mix, or did you watch people, I guess, to get more information on mixing?
Yeah, what initially started all of this was I don't really half-ass things. Once I get into it, I kind of take off. So I started vaping. Um, I got my first vape, which was the Mag Kit by Smoke, along with the TFV12. And I was like, commercial e-liquid, this is getting crazy. Coils, $5 a piece, this is getting crazy. So then I started asking around, and then I saw the builders, and I was like, ooh, how can I do that? So I went out and bought my first RDA, which was the drop, which according to Vaping 360 was the RDA to get for your first one. So I got the drop. That was my first rebuildable item. And then I started building basic builds into that. Then I started looking into YouTube to find out what was the next item I wanted. And then I came across Mark Fagan. And I was like, that man has such an outrageous, carefree personality. I want to get to know him. And me being me, I started bugging him a lot. I was like, I want to hang out. I want to meet you. And he was kind enough to bring me into the loop. And then from there, I met TBC, who I started following. And then I found out Fresh started mixing with him. And I was like, oh, I've never felt so violated and intrigued. I need to find this. Started looking at that. I made my way over to the Vape Shack, who introduced me to somebody who then introduced me to Fresh. And I was like, give me the Yoda hat, please. Like, not give it to me personally, but put it on. I want to see you in that hat. And that was my first introduction to Fresh.
Speaking of Fresh, here's another one then. What has it been like to have Fresh as a teacher?
Wonderful. And that's not even doing that justice. Like, I can't. The amount of help that he has given me is just, there's no amount of words that can describe how grateful and thankful I am for what a wonderful man he is and how kind he's been to just all random hours of the night. I'll message him and ask him about like verifying a purchase, and he'll be like, take that out of there, Lumi. Or you should get this. It's normally, Lumi, what were you thinking when you put that in your shopping cart? I was like, I want it. So, great advice, always.
And how do you come up with some of the percentages that you come up with? Like on Fresh in the Kitchen, he'll ask you for a percentage for something, and you've got like, I don't think it's 1.67, but you're very specific in numbers, but they're always weird numbers, like stuff that other people wouldn't think of.
That's exactly it. Stuff I know people won't be able to think of, so I must be getting somewhere with something being super tricky, and it's something that somebody else hasn't done because it's such an outrageous number.
Right.
It's like playing peekaboo and you're like, you can't see me.
Why did you start streaming on Twitch?
I was always up at the weirdest hours. I met a group of wonderful people in the video game that I was playing who I was always hanging out with. And one of the people one night, I was like, can we do something? I'm bored. I want to do something. He's like, Lumi, you are absolutely ridiculous. You need to just start streaming and share this with people. And I'm like, I'm normally a little too much for people. He's like, you need to start sharing this with other people and it will make you more friends to hang out with at your weird hours. I was like, I have to actually look decent in front of a camera. I have to wear clothes. These are all negative strikes. He's like, but you will meet people. And I was like, fine. I'll start streaming on Twitch. So I started streaming my shenanigans on Twitch to share with everybody.
All right. Now, you've kind of dabbled with YouTube a little bit too, right?
Yes. For YouTube, since I'd saw people doing these reviews on this stuff, I figured I'm not the best person to give out information. I'm not very matter-of-factly in my personality. I just like to be my awkward little self. So I was like, maybe I should do reviews on some of the stuff I've tried and people will find that amusing and something that they might like about it. So I started doing juice reviews, which then turned into me doing my very first review on an RDA. And I was a little concerned about this one because I have really bad arm tremors. So I was doing the build live, and they were like, that's an asset for you to show the fact that despite your inability to do something and you're still making it through, put that on the video so other people with your problem can see that you're doing it. And that's not impossible. So that was my very first RDA review. And then I swapped back to juice. And now I just do random pop-up streams. And the very first one I did was, what the fuck are you doing? Because sometimes randomly through the night, I'll just get this crazy idea. And that night it was me being like, I'm going to make myself a Boston cream donut. So I started the stream up. I called it What the Fuck is Lumi Doing episode 1. And it's me just thinking of how I was going to do this Boston cream donut. And then Adam popped in. Meter was there supporting me this whole route. He's like, this is a great idea. Do it. Adam popped in and helped me out with the recipes. And I was like, I should do more of these. So every once in a while, if I'm feeling like it, it's not scheduled, but I will just hop on YouTube and be like, this is what I'm up to, whether it be making braids, mixing something, or just being outrageous.
All right. So you really are all about keeping busy, huh?
Yes.
Your first time on Fresh in the Kitchen, had you watched the ones that he did with Brian?
The first one I'd seen with him and Brian on it was they were doing lemonades. I think they were making an Arnold Palmer. And that's when I was like, oh, I feel so violated and awkward, but this is so funny and it's educational, so maybe I can learn how to do this too.
Well, so then the eye contact, you knew that it was going to happen on your first episode that y'all mixed, but how did that make you feel?
It was really awkward.
Right.
I'm pretty obnoxious alone, and I say some terribly dirty things, and sometimes I don't even know it, but then I'll just play along with it because there's no point in backpedaling. I already said it, so
Right.
I'll just go along with it. But that doing it so out there and on purpose, normally when I do it, it's unintentional or I just thought of it and I just blurt it. I was like, so recently we actually had Brian come back for Fresh from the Kitchen.
Right.
And I was like, I know I've not been doing nearly as well as Brian has. So before the show, I actually powdered my face because I knew I was going to be blushing the whole time. Every time we did something awkward, I knew it was going to happen. I was like, oh, I really have been slacking.
Oh. Where can people find Lumi?
Um, I stream really weird odd hours on Twitch TV. It was my first streaming service that I had ever experienced, that my group of gaming friends actually got me into, and I stream video games there. I don't take it seriously. I'm just there to be comfortable and happy and meet new people. So I'm just there to have a fun time, and I love interacting with people. That's the reason why I do it. So you can find me there or Instagram normally. I'm more active there than I am Facebook, but I do check my Facebook.
Okay, and what kind of games do you stream typically?
It's a lot of MMOs, RPGs normally. Occasionally I find myself veering off into shooters and things like League of Legends or Hearthstone. Honestly, anything that gives me enough peak of interest, I'm like, I gotta try that.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Lumi, I appreciate you sitting down and doing this, dear.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Uh, anything else that you want people to know?
Keep on doing what the community is doing. Set your own role model for other people. This community, it does have its struggles. What community doesn't? But keep being how treat people the way you want to be treated. Honestly, there's so many people in this community that have been so wonderful, and I think everybody deserves to have that in your life. So in return for people being so wonderful to me, I try to do the same and give that back to other people. And together, we're just going to keep on surviving as this wonderful community. Just keep working towards that.